Hi, I'm Dwayne Morton. As someone who has navigated some of life's most difficult, unlikely, and untimely circumstances, I understand what it feels like to battle those challenges alone. That's why I created ShowUp2Heal. This podcast is for the people who feel unheard, unseen, and unloved. This is where you can come and hear true stories and where man can have real conversations. But most importantly, this is a place where we're creating a community so you can feel supported. I want you to feel in this community that you are seen, heard, and loved. And if no one else has told you today, I love you. Welcome to ShowUp2Heal. Hey everyone, thank you for viewing another exciting episode of Show Up to Win presents ShowUp2Heal. I'm your host, Dwayne Morton, Mr. Show Up to Win himself. I have an amazing guest. John Kennedy is one of those type of people that I highly respect. And then also not just respect, I respect his work. In him, he's just a kind human being, a great Christian man. And I just want to say thank you for being able to come on and be a part of this series. And so what I like to do, John, is I like to read the bio and let you just receive it. And just we'll talk about you receiving this, because I think as men we don't receive enough, and this is a very powerful bio. John Kennedy is an internationally recognized pioneer in the field of targeted neuroplasticity training. As a coach, speaker, and trainer, he has helped thousands of people improve their mental performance, regardless of starting cognitive baseline. So his audience appeal is universal. John helps high performers in sports and business, including pros and C-level executives, as well as students at all levels and people struggling with brain trauma, including TBI, PTSD, and depression. John also partners with and certifies other practitioners for synergistically better results.
Yeah.
John, man, how's that land for you?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, thanks. It's pretty much a good description. So thanks,
Absolutely.
Dwayne.
And I love this. And being able to read a bio of someone who highly respect, and I know what you're doing. And so I just want to hop into the first question is, with man's mental health awareness, what do you feel like we're doing correct? What do you feel like we're missing the boat? And then what do you feel like we could do better?
Well, I think the key that we're doing better is actually recognizing it. For so long, man, I work with a lot of vets, recovering from post-traumatic stress and coming through all we think of them as heroes, and they are. I mean, they're in combat, they're fighting, but then they have struggles that are often we're not aware of. So just the fact that you're making an awareness about some of the mental health struggles that men have, I think is huge, just huge first step. Another first step then is that people actually recognize that. Many of the active duty SEALs and Marines I work with, they did not want to get the help they needed because they saw it as a sign of weakness. But, I think it's a sign of strength. I think men have to admit and they have to accept the fact that they need help in certain things as well. And that's just going to make them better men. They can get that help.
So one thing that there's a few people that have been common have been veterans that have, dealt with mental health stuff that have been on here. I know Leland, who's a huge breath work um, trainer. He's really big into breath work, though. That's the other part, but he found it through, he was special forces. Then we have James Land, who was on last Saturday, who also was dealing with like stress from military. What do you feel like is the common thread for people who are veterans that are dealing with the PTSD of veteran life and getting back to civilian?
Well, I think the common thread is just, again, just recognizing that they need help and then finding the right kind of help. So, one of the tragedies, at least in my experience, I know people will disagree with me, but one of the tragedies of guys coming out of combat with post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, is psychiatry. So psychiatry prescribes pills. And was on a podcast a while ago with a gentleman. His whole mission is to help vets away from the medication. Because a lot of times when we hear about this rampant suicide among vets, well, a lot of times that's not from the trauma, it's from the medications they're on. They, psychiatrists, they can give them 3, 4, 5, 6 different, the soup of different medications. And then, the men don't like what's happening, so they try to go off of them on their own. And then that's when they get a lot of the issues. So I think anything, and there's a lot of great strategies out there for vets, right? You've got the horse ramps, you've got psychology, you've got your service dogs, anything that we can use to help that's not medication based. I think, and again, some people will disagree with me, but if we can do it in a more natural way to help, I think that's a movement. And there's more and more of that. I think that's one of the things we're doing better.
So one of the other things is like with community is with they're used to having some type of brotherhood, some type of community.
Yeah.
And I feel like those organizations do really great job with being able, rather than, hey, let's go to a bar and drink.
Right.
What for you? And I know you're a very spiritual person, a Christian man, and so how can we do better with the community of reaching these people who are needing support of us?
Yeah. Well, I think groups like that, and even, vet organizations, the VA, one of the guys on our team is building out something called Vet Voice AI. It's a way to connect vet support organizations around the country to actually share resources, share what's working, and give veterans a voice in that area. Anytime, as you said, we can do together, yet much better to hang around with a bunch of guys and play sports or play games or get online together as opposed to hang around a bar and drinking, right? So that's a common thing. But that physical, God made us analog, not digital, and that analog connection that we can have with other people is very powerful. And that's actually the key differentiator of what I do. Is my program, as you experience, it's analog, right? You're actually engaging the parts of your brain that interface with the real world at the same time we're rewiring the brain. And I think that's an important component.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question is how you've been able to find something as a neuroplastician and be able to, I mean, it doesn't just help out vets, it helps out any human being.
Yeah.
Because you're rewiring the brain, but also you're rewiring the brain in a healthy, non-invasive way. Can you explain a little bit about your Kennedy method?
Yeah, one of the things people need to understand is this principle of neuroplasticity. A lot of people talk about it. It's it's getting more and more coverage. Neuroplasticity is just the incredible capability God gave our brains to change from repetition. So an athlete, right? You shoot a basket 10,000 times, you'll be better at it. It's the body, but it's also the brain that remembers. And so that was basically the mechanism that I really explored when I got my first contract by the Marines to try to find some way to help reduce casualties. My brother was the one when he returned from Iraq that inspired me to develop this. And so in my research, I found there's a very specific type of exercises that start to change the brain immediately. Because we know the brain is always changing, right? And it's important people understand it. If they have a bad habit, it's because they repeated that bad habit to the point where neuroplasticity has made it a deeper rut. So we have ways to change habits in 30 minutes instead of 30 days by, targeted repetition for what we want to happen. And then at the core level, the main difference of my program is we specifically target the CPU of the brain, the processing. So when we can improve processing speed and smoothness very quickly, that has an impact on feelings, emotions, performance. And because our brains operate pretty much the same way, that's why the same program can help a Navy SEAL or a pro athlete, and lately great success with autism. It's just blown us away about how we've been able to have success in that area. So it's basically by rewiring the brain using very specific type of exercises that really impact our whole life, everything we do in our life.
Yeah. So with the repetition, but also how you explained it through sports and just in general, if you look at someone who's a musician, they don't just start well, but once you
Right.
start out first time and you get better, 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 that's the same thing with your program. But what you're able to do is you have like an update, in my opinion. It's like you're once you do one of the exercises, then it goes to like an update, and then your brain is working from that update, not just from there. And I think that's
Yes.
one of the things that people don't understand about neuroplasticity or work is how that is like a long term effect off of just one time.
Well, it's great. So basically, probably the easy way to understand is I use a computer model to help people understand what we do. So, a computer, you have your applications, your operating system, and you have the CPU, the processor. And so the things that we do are like the applications, right? So a pitcher, throw a ball 10,000 times, you get better at it. Your computer, you can upgrade the operating, I'm sorry, you can upgrade like the games or the counting software, whatever. It's kind of isolated because that's where you're upgrading. It's the same thing with that procedural neuroplasticity, which we call muscle memory, right? You repeat that, you can be the best pitcher in the world, doesn't mean you can do math or drive a car or anything else. Those are different applications. Now, a very powerful piece of the computer and our brain is the operating system. Everything we do on a computer filters through the operating system. And that's where so many great programs that are psychology based, mindset, NLP, mindfulness, all these things are basically, but again, through repetition. You don't see a mental toughness coach and you're changed immediately, right? You got to practice that. Neuroplasticity is the practice. And so over time, you get better at it, and that's how you filter everything. And then where I work, I just work at the CPU level. So if you got a new computer, your operating system and every single application works better. So that's why when we target the core processing ability of the brain, it really accelerates any result of any psychology-based program. I mean, everything improves. You learn faster, confidence improves, mindset improves, basically because the brain is more efficient. And then also everything you do physically. So, athletes are better. They get along better with their wives. They get better with their families. All those things change when we can upgrade the processor of your brain. And that's really where my focus is.
Yeah, and it's a huge. I believe mindset is a huge thing for men's mental health. I
Yes.
feel like this Kennedy method is one of those steps to create a better mindset. But then it's like you said, you're going to get all these byproducts of being happier, being more fulfilled, those type of things. And so one of the things for me and you that is like our spiritual part and being able to have that to bridge because there's so many people that are longing for it, looking for it. Can you share from your experience how the career part is one way, but also the spiritual part gives you another layer for you to be able to hold on to, but also that improves your mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. And the spirituals, I like to think that my program is based the verse Romans 12:2. God tells us to renew our minds. Well, he wouldn't tell us to do that if he didn't give us a capability, and that capability is neuroplasticity. And so, there's been lots of research that even praying every day helps your mindset, helps you better, right? Because you're giving your problems away to something, to God or whatever people want to do that to. So there's a lot of positive things. But again, the more you repeat it, the easier it becomes and the more powerful it is. And it's one of the reasons that you mentioned earlier, I've been certifying other people. So I've certified mindset coaches, DeMartini coaches, spiritual coaches, doesn't matter, athletic coaches. By adding the CPU upgrade to what they're already doing synergistically, they just get much better results with their clients or their patients.
Yeah. So the one thing I feel like I really want to talk about is the fact that like what you've created is something that you have built a legacy. How does that feel to you to be able to put something out there that other people, other human beings hadn't created yet? So it's like you're inventing something, but you're also inventing something for legacy that other people can build upon. How does that feel for you?
Well, it feels great, especially right now, because right now we're in the process of trying to explore, working with investors, trying to find a way to just expand the people we can help. I work with people in Japan and Europe and different, so we can help people anywhere. But, it's funny because I just recently started thinking about that legacy piece because everyone we've worked with improves. So what's the problem? The problem is helping more. How do we help more people? So that's why you certify people. That's why we're expanding our trainers and trying to hire more people and trying to just get that out to them because that's what I want to leave the world with, right? We all want to leave the world in a better place. And this is kind of my way to make that happen. And that is what I want my legacy to be. I mean, kids with ADHD who can do better in school, vets who can help recover faster, all those people who are better because of, I think it's a gift God gave me to be able to do this. That's the legacy that I want to leave as many people as possible, which means training and certifying other people. So it's not just relying on me.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I know that you're such a kind, humble human being that it's also one of those things where it's like you're aware of it, but you also it's not comes from like an arrogant standpoint. It's from just being humble and being able to be able to say like I want to help more people. Like this impact just has allowed me to realize the impact that it could have with more people. I feel like that's something we both have very much in common is just that thread of like, okay, if I impact 10, well, I want to impact 20. If I impact 20, I want to impact 50. If I want to impact 50, I'd like to go to 100. And I think that with your program is that's something that you're able, actually, I'm not going to say program, it's a method. It really truly
Yeah.
is. And, so for people out there that are struggling with their mental health, what would be the first advice that you have for them?
The first really is just acknowledge that neuroplasticity it's real, right? It's not something that you read about. It's real. Whatever you do is repeating. You repeat whether you think about it, do about it, say it is starting to form those ruts. And that to me that's very positive, right? I always want to give a message of hope because if a lot of people they get hopeless, they think there's nothing I could do. Just acknowledging the fact that they can change is very positive. And one of the things that I experienced, by the way, one of the things, I feel like I'm giving, but I get so much from my own clients. It's amazing what I get from them as their life changes. And it's just really the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And as they go, like even depression, for example, a young man with very severe depression, once he started the program, you could see his eyes light up, and he made such a tremendous improvement. Within just a couple of months, he had a full-time job. He's lost like 30 pounds. I mean, so you see all the physical and emotional changes in people when they acknowledge the fact that everything they do, they repeat, is changing their brain. And then with my program or the method that I use to do that, it just happens really fast. And that's really the most rewarding piece of what I do.
So John, I want to go back to this one comment thread. I feel like a lot of where were you 24 hours before you discovered this method? Like where were you as far as like in your life, man, right?
So it's interesting because I approach this different than anybody else. There's a lot of wonderful programs out there, right? And they're typically people who were in some sort of brain trauma and they found a way to help themselves, and that's what they use to help other people. I came in at a completely different background. I was a consultant. I was working with C-level of large companies out of Chicago, and I was, helping companies save a lot of money by making operations more efficient. 24 hours before I got this, really a God vision, I was at an event in 29 Palms, California. My brother was on his return from Iraq, is the one who inspired me to try to save lives as opposed to just helping businesses make more money. And I wanted to learn what our military had to go through. So this event, the Marines held every year, I'm going through it, 24 hours going through it, experiencing as much as they could to a whole pool of contractors to find ways to save lives from IEDs, the improvised explosive devices. So as a result, there's great guy. They came up with better armor. They came up with better radio jammers. But I was shaking hands with General Doug Stone. That was the base commander in the last day. And, I'm a consultant, right? How do we solve problems? What's the problem here? And I was shaking hands with him, and I just got this God vision. What if you could do the same thing for the brain that you do for operations, make them more efficient? You could improve intuition. You could improve, sensory. You could improve so many things. And one of the God winks of this whole thing, but any other general, it never would have happened. But Doug had had a lot of business experience. He got an idea of what I was trying to do. And he's the one that actually helped me get my first contract with the Marine Corps. But that was it. It was 24 hours. I was just absorbing all this information. And then, that serendipitous intuition moment is what gave me the vision to do this.
Man, that's amazing. That's a great story. It also it lets me know about the type of person you are to be that intuitive and to realize there's this issue and I didn't think about it this way. And now I want to create a solution. I think with men's mental health, we focus so much on symptoms. How do we create and how do we alleviate these symptoms rather than the solution? And I feel like you went to the root cause of these things. So my other question is going back to you as a kid. They always talk about inner child stuff like that. So most people go back and they tell the kid something. I want to know what little John at 8, 9, 10 years old would say to you now about how inspiring you are.
That's a great question. I know as a kid growing up, well, I know that what I did as a kid is what created this. I grew up in a house built in 1719 and my dad had tons of chores, always lots of things to do. My dad was brilliant and would always have us solve problems. So basically, as a child, solving problems was really what got me to where I am now, right? I mean, this is the biggest problem I've ever had to solve. How do you go, from business operations to the brain? And so I think my 8-year-old would be saying, "Hey, nice job." Basically, Steve Jobs has a great quote. You can only look. I can't remember what it is now. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? And that's one thing I encourage people. A lot of times, people, even the ones I work with, they measure success by how far they are from their goal. And that's the wrong way, right? Because you might never, if you look backwards and you see that chain of events or change of things you experienced that got to where you are now, I think that's really positive. And that's kind of what I do. I look back all the way to when I was a kid to get to what's happened now. There's obviously no way I could have ever predicted that. And I think all of us in our life, we got to look back at where we came from to find out where we are now. And that can be very positive for a lot of people.
Yeah. So one thing is this is it's very serendipitous right now. And these 30 speaker conversations have brought up all kinds of synchronicities, but I like to work mazes from the finish to the start. So, and I was explaining that to somebody. I was like, they were always talking about maze, and I was like, I like to start from finish and go to the start because I want to get there. I don't want to that doesn't make sense to me. And so I was explaining my brain works from finished product to down. And so when you said that quote, I hadn't heard that quote used in that, and so it was really quite revealing for me. So I appreciate that. What do you have what do you have next for this? How do you feel like to bring the Kennedy method to more people, the right type of people? Are you looking to bring it into organizations first? Or are you looking to bring it into, like you said, the trainer aspect? Or is it hey, you're looking for a big organization? There's a lot of people who've they're supporting this podcast. And what exactly are you looking for?
Well, and the timing probably is perfect for that question because, we've helped everybody. Again, everyone from high performers, entrepreneurs, pro athletes, military, and people at all these different ADHD, all these different areas. And so the problem has always been capacity. So I actually have a delivery model at work. So I work one-on-one with really high performers, change their lives. We work with teams. The certification piece is where I'm really excited about because it allows me to help a lot more people without me in the middle. I can certify trainers within a company. I can certify trainers on a sports team. We're going to be working on it. We have a video series. So the goal is to try to help as many people as possible. And our big push right now is to be able to, again, we're talking to some investors. As soon as the money hits, we want to hit the ground running because we have different sectors, right? We've got senior care, we've got business, we've got athletes, we've got mental trauma, and we've got, ADHD, autism. So there's all these different silos where we have such great results. The big push right now is to be able to have the capacity to help anybody who wants it.
I mean that I've experienced it for what, an hour. I think we were, going through it.
About 30 minutes actually. It's pretty short. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I just know the impact on me and the impact of like what I want to do with it and to be able to get the certification, but also what I see, my coaching and utilizing it to do the things that I feel like to help others and how it opens up a door to, I feel like this could be useful for everyone. Like I don't see this not being useful. I feel like this is something that if public education wanted to actually make better students, that would be step one. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. In fact, one of my favorite engagements was an inner city school in Chicago that I work with. And that was one of my first services. So I helped the advisor use the program with his students. And inner city school, so a lot of trauma, a lot of different things going on. And over the course of just 8 weeks, just 3 sessions a week, 10 to 15 minutes, that class, their ACT scores increased 3 full points. So went from the lowest to the highest in the school, this junior year grade. Their grades went up, and probably more importantly, the emotional issues, all the behavior issues that they had a lot of reduced significantly. So for education, it's just is huge for education.
Absolutely. It's the awareness of the education piece that like these are things that we can change. And when we change these, then we get better results. And I think that's
right. And it's thinking outside the box, right? So if everything we're already doing that everybody else is doing isn't working, maybe we need to look at something different, right? And bring that into what we're already trying to get better results.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're almost out of time. We're almost at the 30-minute mark. Tell people where to find you and how to connect with you. And in the recording, I'll drop those links and things too.
Yeah, that'd be great. So basically, the original program that I created for the military is called Combat Brain Training. And people have told me we're all in combat, right? We're all trying to protect people. We're trying to become more successful. So combatbraintraining.com is the website. It will be completely redone shortly, but there's some information there. Don't forget the brain though. Some people say combat training. It's not. It's combat brain training. And then I love when people can just reach me directly at john@combatbraintraining.com. And I'd love to hear from people.
Absolutely. And I know you're also very approachable too and accessible to the right type of people because you're wanting to make such an impact and make such a difference. So John, man, I just want to say thanks again for coming on here, sharing presence with me, being able to have a conversation. Frank King, who's done 14 TED Talks, he said that his mission was to save one life every day. And,
wow.
For me is like this impact of like the awareness part where I'm almost closing into 30 that, I have like 4 more days of this long marathon, but I feel like it was to bring more awareness. It also to show that, hey, we're not alone. But to have you be a part of this is a huge, just from a gratitude perspective, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I love what you're doing. You're helping a lot of people, Dwayne. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so that is going to be episode 26 with John Kennedy. I'll be here tomorrow, same time, 1 Eastern, 12 Central, and 10 Pacific time. And tomorrow we will have Bodhi Shabodi and he's an amazing person. So I'm looking forward to talking mental health awareness. That is going to be the episode. Show Up to Win, present Show Up to Heal. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching another episode of Show Up to Win, present Show Up to Heal. Please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Thank you.